I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of grey in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to this week's episode of the World of Gaming. And after skipping last week, because, well, Dutch, last week there were basically zero news. There was one tiny news last week with the Kojima game Death Stranding coming to Xbox, but we thought, that's not worth doing a podcast for. But this week, man, we are back, and we are back with a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So I'm excited for this week's episode, and I want to welcome everyone here in the chat. I hope you guys are doing well. Great to see you here on this Thursday. And of course, a big welcome to everyone who listens after the fact, either here on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. A big welcome. And Dutch, my man, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing well. Just work and barely any play. But I'm going hiking this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, nice. Where are you going?
Just a place called Buttermere in the Lake District in the UK. So,
sweet.
So yes,
sweet,
nice. But yeah, other than that, yeah, doing okay. How about yourself?
Well, in general, I'm doing good. I'm a little scared. I told you that up front.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life, I'm getting a surgery. Man, I'm 41 years old. I've never been to the hospital, never had anything done, and now it's time to get another knife. And so that's, by the way, the reason why we won't do a podcast today in 2 weeks, because that's the day of the surgery. So
yeah.
Other than that, man, I'm doing good. And again, I'm excited to do the podcast today because there's plenty to talk about. So again, a big welcome to this awesome community. And with that, Dutch, I think it's time to talk about our games of the week.
Jingle, jingle.
Jingle, jingle.
That's
all right.
Chat.
Yeah. Can't imagine, man. All right. So, of course, as always, we want to start a gaming podcast with the most important thing in gaming, and that's the games. And so, we want to know from everyone in the chat, of course, what have you guys been playing? And Dutch, what kept you busy these last 2 weeks, actually?
Yeah, so outside of playing Call of Duty with friends, of course, as always, I did jump on and get Death Stranding again for the third time because it was on sale for less than £18. So I decided to pick it up, and I've been playing Death Stranding on Xbox.
Mm.
So that's pretty much all I've been playing, other than Black Ops and that. And yeah, I do like Death Stranding. I know it's a Marmite game. There's a lot of people that dislike it, a lot of people that like it. But it's a little bit more of a chilled game. Yes, you can get some tense moments where you're kind of running away from ghosts or BTs as they call them anyway. But it's also pretty interesting and has a really good soundtrack. So nice chilled game, one you can just relax to after work and put a couple of hours into and then turn off. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing. And I do like Death Stranding. It looks good, plays good. I haven't had any issues with it. There's one save bug. I don't know whether or not it's been fixed now, but if you save the game and then you quick resume the game, it won't allow you to save the game again. So
Okay.
you need to quit the game, jump back on it, and then it'll save the game fine. I don't know whether or not that's been patched, but that was an initial bug with the saves. The quick resuming thing was messing up with the save game thing on it. But yeah, just quitting out of it instead of leaving it in suspended on Xbox quick resume seems to kind of mitigate that thing. But other than that, it, like I say, it plays well, looks great, sounds great. I was wondering how they were going to do the controls in comparison to PlayStation, because obviously on PlayStation you've got the speaker and they have the kind of interactivity of things coming out the speaker when you do things on the controller. But it's just pretty much exactly the same controls, just without that audio addition that you would get on PlayStation. So no difference there either. Yeah, but other than that, enjoying it. I finished the Black Ops 6 campaign. I really enjoyed the campaign.
How did you like it?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah,
really good. It was obviously there was that creepy level as well where you have the mannequins that aren't quite mannequins.
Okay.
For anybody who hasn't played through it, I'll not kind of go into it. But obviously you've got the mannequin level that kind of reminds you a little bit of Condemned.
Yeah.
Where if you move, they follow you about, and if you don't move and look at them, they don't do anything. So yeah, I've enjoyed both of those, and I'll continue playing both of those. But time is not on our side because, of course, we've got a numerous amounts of games coming out very soon. We've got Stalker 2 and Indiana Jones dropping like in no time. And I've got to finish Death Stranding before that, so time is not on my side.
No, it isn't. It really isn't. The good thing is games are not going anywhere, so you can always try to catch up. Yeah. But I do know what you mean.
It's the same also with Veilguard, because as much as I want to play Veilguard, I'm like, I should have time off in December, so I'll wait and get it nearer the time. And then play it over the December period. Indiana Jones, I don't expect.
You're gonna love it.
I don't expect Indiana Jones to be long. I expect it to be like 15, 20
they
hours.
said something around 15 hours.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So that's not going to be like, that's going to take us like a weekend to finish.
Yeah.
And Stalker, God knows how long that'll take, but Veilguard and Stalker should occupy my time over the winter period. But yeah, so time is not on my side to finish Death Stranding, but I am enjoying it and I'll continue playing it until I have.
Sweet.
But yes. Yeah, what about yourself? What you've been playing?
Well, not of Death Stranding. I tried that game when it came out. I fell asleep twice in the first hour and then never returned. I'm just not a Kojima fan. I don't see why everyone is so hyped about these games. I'm just not a fan, but I'm glad for those who do enjoy the Kojima games that they can do that now on Xbox. But yeah, not for me. So I've been mostly playing Dragon Age Veilguard. That game is so good, man. I'm having a blast with it. Once you get past level 20, the game gives you like special abilities that you can then develop in the skill tree. It's so much fun, man. And I think I've found now all the companions. It takes you like 30 hours or so into the game until you find all companions. You can't. It's not like you can miss them. Yeah, the story will take you to all companions, and the companion system is also really, really good. Like finding out the best combinations for certain missions of who to take along on the next ride. I'm really enjoying the story so far. That's good. Gameplay is fantastic. Combat is super fun, on point, snappy. Combat feels impactful. It's beautiful. A lot of diversity in the environments and biomes that you visit. You know, from colorful, lush forests to dark, gritty areas, and it's fantastic. I'm absolutely having a blast. I don't get the negativity around it. I know a lot of people have been criticizing Dragon Age for the DEI
I think
stuff,
a lot of the criticism I've seen is more about how the story's written and how the characters are written and what some of them say than I have about. Everyone seems to love the gameplay. They really enjoy the gameplay aspect of it.
Yeah.
But they say a lot of the character scripts are. A lot of them say they just feel like it's a bit badly written, or feels more like a comedy than it does like an intense story at times, which kind of, I think, to them detracts from that.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, the game doesn't take itself too serious, right? And they try to squeeze in humor at some points where it sometimes really doesn't fit. You know, if something serious is happening in the story and then one of your companions tries to make a joke, like it's not always super fitting, but it's also, I mean, it's a light-hearted RPG, you know. It's not like your super serious storyline like in The Witcher or something. That's not the case, but it is a light-hearted action RPG, and if you take it for that, it's fun, and actually the writing is good. It's just sometimes the comments of the companions, yeah, okay, but that's nitpicking, man.
It's serviceable.
I'm absolutely. It's one of the best games I've played this year.
Is it better than Visions of Mana?
That's a tough question, man. That's a tough question.
Have you finished Visions of Mana yet?
I haven't finished Visions and I haven't finished Dragon Age, so I'll judge. No, man, I'm keeping Visions. I don't think I have too long to go. Like maybe I don't know, 10 hours or so, I would assume. So,
where are you up to? Tell me and I will tell you.
So after the reveal of the true bad guy, without any spoilers, after the reveal of the true bad guy, you have to find certain things. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And revisit certain places. Yeah. And I found 3 of them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're not too far. You're not too far. Maybe it's
So
less than 10 hours. Maybe it's less than 10 hours.
so, and that's why I thought, okay, I'm gonna save
Are you
Visions of
going to
Mana.
play the additional chapter after the end game?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to play
Okay,
that.
then maybe it's more than 10 hours.
Okay, but
By the way,
round about where
that
I am.
final boss at the end chapter is a
Yeah.
pain in the arse on any difficulty. He's a pain in the arse.
I'm looking forward to it. But I've been saving the rest of Visions of Mana because that's my, game on the Rock Alley. And I need something when I'm in the hospital.
Yeah.
And so I thought, hey, since Dragon Age isn't play anywhere, I'm gonna save the rest of Visions of Mana to play that in the hospital and finish Dragon Age hopefully before Stalker comes out. So that's the plan.
Yeah.
The master plan. All right. So first of all, let me shout out the Sith Lord, who sends in a channel member chat for being a channel member for 27 months. Thank you so much, man. And he says, you will be okay. Good luck. I'll pray for you, Boxy. So thank you so much, man.
It's better than what Daz has
Appreciate
said in
that.
my chat. Because Daz, in my chat, said, let's have a look here. He's getting his foreskin chopped.
God, I wish. God, if it were that, if it were only that. So, I mean, the surgery I'm getting is nothing like super critical. It's not like I'm getting open heart surgery or something. But I'm still, I'm not scared to admit I'm a little scared.
You'll be okay.
I've never been in the hospital. I never had anything done. And so
I am the opposite of you. I have spent a lot of time in the hospital.
everyone keeps telling me that. Everyone I talk to is like even my wife. Yeah, I had this and that and that. I know, and I've never had something, and now for the first time. And actually, I'm looking forward to it because I can't properly walk right now. I can't lift anything. It's like super annoying.
Yeah.
Super annoying. So I'm glad when that's over. But
Foxy
yeah.
has piles, is what is happening. A really bad case of piles.
Okay, we need to change the topic, dude.
Shout out quickly to
right.
Fantosir as well for the 32-month membership.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So let us see what the community has been playing. Agent X-Force is still playing RoboCop, Protato, and a touch of Dragon Age Guard. Great playlist. The Sith Lord has been playing Death Stranding and Black Ops. Oates has been playing Hands of Fate 2 and God of War 2018 and Diablo 4. Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Diablo 4 as well because I still don't have my seasonal character up to level 100. And I fully intend to do that.
Nice.
Dustin Lambert has been playing Grim Idol, and he says it's free on Xbox, and the game has him really hooked. Sweet. And he also beat Legends of Mana. Nice. The Big Bridge has been playing Unicorn Overlord, his favorite game of 2024. Sweet. So did I miss anything? Dutch, did we miss something in your chat?
Negative. Nope.
I think that's it. All right. Good stuff here. Good stuff. Then, Dutch, let us move on and talk about some news of the week.
For those in my chat, you can just watch me dance while the jingle's on.
All right. But before we start with the news of the week, let me see what gameplay are we watching this week. The poll, the chat has voted.
Unfortunately for
Visions
my
of
chat,
Mana.
yes, unfortunately for my chat, they're also getting Visions of Mana because I just
Why
have not had the
unfortunate
time.
is an insanely good game. But I'm a little surprised. I would have guessed that more people would vote for Dragon Age. All right. I'm gonna close the poll, put on the gameplay. Just briefly need to switch it because I thought people are going to vote for that. All right, Visions of Mana it is. Dutch.
Yes.
Just a couple of hours ago, Xbox launched a new advertising campaign.
Yes.
Let us use that as to ease into some of the other topics that we want to talk about this week. This is an Xbox campaign. Everything's an Xbox. The campaign. I think by now, or I hope by now, probably most of our listeners have seen that new advertising campaign. What are your thoughts, man?
Honestly, the actual video doesn't tell you anything other than everything is an Xbox. Like, as an advertisement, it's not advertising anything. It's just saying everything's an Xbox, but it isn't explaining how or why or what that entails. They don't finish the advertisement by going, everything is an Xbox on Game Pass. They just say everything is an Xbox. Okay, but how? And what do I need to do to make this mobile an Xbox? Or this TV an Xbox? Or this PC an Xbox? Or this handheld an Xbox? Like, what do I need to do to make that an Xbox? How is that an Xbox? They don't explain it, they just say it is one. Okay, great. Yeah. So what are you advertising? And this is my only nitpick on it, because obviously we've all come to got to grips with the situation now that Xbox literally doesn't care about selling a specific box, and they just want to have their stuff everywhere. So now, and I said this ages ago, unless they give me a specific reason to pick up a box next generation, I'm not going to be picking up a box, because there isn't a requirement for one anymore. I can just play everything on PC, and my intention still is to just get a better PC again next year, or well, whenever it is that the next generation unfolds, and get the next console for PlayStation and get the next Switch. With that said, the advertisement itself, again, it kind of says the point of the topic, but it doesn't actually advertise anything. Which is again the problem that Xbox always have, is that the marketing isn't actually marketing anything.
Yeah.
It's like shoving out Call of Duty on the TV, but then not mentioning it on Game Pass. And then it's like, oh, Game Pass saw a huge rise. That's great. That's because it kind of told people when they turned the Xbox on that it was on Xbox and it was on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Not because people went out to get it on Game Pass, but because they advertised it as such on the console.
Which is kind of interesting, because you basically need Game Pass to make everything an Xbox,
exactly.
Right?
The ideal line,
of course, the actual console and PC, you can't play. For everything else, it's cloud. Yeah, whether you want to play on your mobile, whether you want to play on the TV, on the Fire TV stick, or whatever, you need cloud, and you only get the cloud through Game Pass.
Yep. And then, so there's one thing. It could mean one or two things. It could mean, because of their strategy to literally, and we'll get into another part of this soon, but because of their strategy to put as many games from the Xbox ecosystem onto every other platform, I'll give them that on stating as to why it isn't saying with Game Pass. Because even though they don't specifically state it's going to be on PlayStation or on Switch on the advert, they didn't say it wasn't going to be. But if that was the case, then you would say everything is an Xbox with Game Pass. And that should have been the title of that. Everything is an Xbox with Game Pass. Not just everything is an Xbox. How?
Yeah. I
just
get that
think
train of thought.
the marketing, I just think the way they've marketed it, although I understand what they're going for, I just don't think it doesn't actually advertise anything. Like, it's, what are you advertising here? If you've seen just the advert and this is an Xbox, and then it just shows you this is an Xbox, and this is an Xbox, and this is an Xbox, and this is an Xbox, you just sit there and go, right? But what does that, like? What does that mean? So how is that? How is this an Xbox? Like, like the advert doesn't tell you how it's an Xbox. It doesn't say what you need to make this an Xbox. It just says it's an Xbox. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. I mean, I do agree. But that actually didn't come to my mind when I watched it. What I was surprised about is, first, of course, this suddenly became like a meme on the social channels. Everyone was like making fun of it. When at the end of the day, this is nothing new. This is what Xbox, what Microsoft has been telling you for the better part of 2 years now, right? It's an ecosystem you're investing in. It's not one particular device. Play Anywhere has been introduced, I want to say 2015, something. When did Quantum Break come out? Something like that, you know? Like 9 years or so, plus minus. And so it's really nothing new. Absolutely not. And in line with some things that Phil mentioned this week in one of the interviews he gave, where he said, well, our ultimate target is that you can play every Xbox game everywhere, which isn't the case today. There are certain games that have Play Anywhere, but it's usually only the games that are in Game Pass that support Play Anywhere. There's always the exception that proves the rule, like Visions of Mana here. Yeah. But 99% of the games that are not on Game Pass are not Play Anywhere, which kind of breaks up the ecosystem. And we've talked about this ever since I have the Rock Ally. I have what I call the third-party problem. Yeah, when I buy Dragon Age, I have to think about it. Where do I buy it? Because I usually, when I'm at home, I want to play on my console. So if I get Dragon Age on the console, I can't play it on the Alley, which is a PC. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I buy it on PC, I kind of have to play it on PC, even though I want to do it on the big TV, right? On the console. So, and Phil mentioned that in one of the interviews this week, that's the ultimate target, right? That they do not just support that through Game Pass, but that they want to have everything that you buy in the Xbox ecosystem available on every device. So when I buy Dragon Age, I can play it on PC as well. Play Anywhere. Nothing new. The idea isn't new for them.
Yeah.
But it felt to me, starting that campaign, Phil going out on an interview talking about this, that they might be one step closer than we think to actually achieve that.
The only problem I've got with that is that it's fantastic for us, and that's what Xbox wants. But there is the drawback they're always going to have, and as you've mentioned before, is the vast majority of the time it's games that are either on Game Pass or have specific deals with Xbox with regards to Play Anywhere, like Square Enix have recently with Visions of Mana and the Pixel remasters and things like that. outside of games that are on Game Pass and some odd exceptions, the vast majority of those Play Anywhere games are Xbox titles. The vast majority of the ones that
Which
aren't,
then are on Game Pass usually.
Yeah.
Again, yeah.
So the
So,
vast majority of the
yeah,
ones that aren't, the issue convincing them is, okay, well, your title is, if somebody buys it on Xbox, they're going to have it on PC. And then the third party might go, so that's potentially a sale lost, because we might have had customers that have bought it on Xbox who would have also then bought it on PC, who would have maybe also bought it on this other platform. But if it's now Play Anywhere and they buy it once and they get it on every platform, then we might lose revenue through that. And that's convincing other third parties to potentially sacrifice sales.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, for me as a customer, that's what I want.
Exactly.
That's what I wanted for years. Yeah. Because I'm a big fan of having an ecosystem, because it's the one thing it's one of the things I truly do agree with Xbox strategy. And I've been criticizing them a lot for their strategies lately, and I stand by my criticism. But the one thing I really do support is that idea of Play Anywhere, because yes, the times are gone where I just game on one device. I don't have just the one gaming device, the console or the PC. I do have multiple, and I walk across them. I've been using my handheld, my Asus ROG Ally, a lot, because I travel. I like to play when laying in bed, and so on. I go back and forth in between different devices, and so for me, this is similar to like every other entertainment format. In this day and age, in 24, you are not thinking about where do I buy the next album of my favorite band.
Yeah.
You're not thinking like that anymore. You just know, okay, it's available through my subscription on Spotify, and I can listen to Spotify on everything. I have a Spotify app in my car. I don't even have to connect my phone to my car. I listen to it on the phone. I listen to it on my big audio system in the living room when I'm at home, and I just don't think about it. It's all seamless. And why shouldn't that be the case with gaming as well, which is also, by the way, the most expensive entertainment format, if you think about it. Of it all.
Significantly. Significantly.
And that was actually my train of thought when I saw that campaign. And maybe that's a lot of wishful thinking as well. But for them doing such a campaign with the combination of Phil talking about this as their ultimate goal, I truly hope that they are one step closer. And that's by the way, to solve the problem you described, that you have to kind of convince third-party publishers to give up that like exclusive license for one box and make a game license. I'm taking Dragon Age now again as an example, to give up the Dragon Age console license and just make it a Dragon Age license on every device is a really tough step for publishers. And that's still, I believe that the next Xbox is running Windows to, get around this licensing issue. Because if the next Xbox runs on Windows, they don't have that. Then Xbox truly is a PC, you know, and you just publish it on the Xbox store and you're good. I still don't believe, before people are misquoting me again, that you will boot up into your desktop on the next console. They will have like a certain launcher on there, but at its core, it's going to be Windows, and it's going to be a Windows license that you run, and and with that they will circumvent the third-party licensing problems. And honestly, and I know people will say it's wishful thinking. But when I saw that campaign, I thought, okay, I truly hope they are one step closer to achieve that, because they've done it for the Game Pass titles, but everything else is not.
But this is my problem, and it's just shone on through with this again. Ever since Game Pass has been released, they've done a really piss poor job on selling Game Pass, and by that I mean to the casuals. Like, no casual person actually knows what Game Pass is, and they've done a really bad job at selling it. And this is a great advert for showing what Game Pass is, if you actually tell them it's Game Pass.
I do agree. I've seen one comment on X, and I thought that nailed it. I'm paraphrasing now. So they finally got some budget to do marketing, and they spend it on something that isn't telling anything.
Yep.
It's not selling a console. It's not selling Game Pass. It's not selling whatever, it's just a statement. I mean, it's better than nothing, which we've been getting for the most part of the year, or for the last decade.
Yeah.
But at the end, you're absolutely right. They are not advertising the thing they want to sell.
Yeah.
What should I buy now? What should I do now to make my phone an Xbox? That's true. That's true, man.
Like, they could have just done, like, the whole of that ad could have been everything is an Xbox, and then they show you different devices. And at the end, when it goes everything is an Xbox, then you add a little section that just goes boop, and it goes wider, and it says on Game Pass.
Yeah,
And
just
you
get
finish
Game
the ad,
Pass,
and you leave that sitting there for like 5-10 seconds.
Get Game Pass, and everything is an Xbox. Something like that, you know. Phrase it a little bit better.
Yeah,
but
everything is an Xbox with Game Pass. Simple. Then the end of the ad, you go, okay, what's Game Pass then? Does that mean I can play this on my phone if I've got Game Pass, and on my TV, and on my fridge, my watch, the PlayStation? Which is, what it is. That's the thing that I think they're definitely going to try their best on doing, but the problem they're going to have with Game Pass on PlayStation and or Nintendo isn't so much the titles that are available, because we've seen they can curate titles depending on the type of service and the type of platform. So they can have Game Pass for Xbox, Game Pass for PlayStation, they can have Xbox Game Pass for Nintendo, and have specific ones on those where Nintendo and PlayStation get a cut of that particular fee if someone signs up. That's the only way to get around it and to put it on that box. If anything's sold through on those platforms where they play something on Game Pass on those platforms, then you have to do that. But also then you have curated ones, so Xbox for PlayStation and Game Pass for PlayStation and Game Pass for Nintendo. Curated titles that of course can run on those platforms. Nintendo's obviously going to be a bit different because not all games on Game Pass play on Nintendo. So but I think that's the ultimate goal, and it's a case of, I think, more just getting a deal done with those platforms as to the monetary return that those platforms will see for foregoing potential sales, because ultimately that's what they're going to be doing. So, but I think it'll happen. I think it'll happen because their ultimate goal, as we know, is to have everything everywhere, and that includes putting games onto PlayStation. And what's the easiest way of getting games onto PlayStation, even if it's via the cloud, than through a subscription service?
Yeah.
So, but again, it's just refining the ad. Like we've said, it's a great ad, but it isn't actually advertising anything. It's not selling anything. It's just saying everything's an Xbox. So just a little tweaks here and there, and they'll get the messaging right. But I think the problem is that the messaging isn't right still. People know that everything's an Xbox, but they don't know how.
Yeah. I agree. Let us stick with Xbox and talk about all the things that Phil mentioned this week. He did multiple interviews. I think the biggest one was with Bloomberg, Since I'm blocked by our good friend Jason for whatever
This is where multiple
for
accounts
whatever
comes in
reason,
handy.
you know, it's so funny because I've heard him talk when, for instance, he was on the Iron Lords podcast and mentioned, like, I've never blocked anyone who wasn't insulting me.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say I've never insulted anyone online. Never, ever. It's so, but yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm blocked. But the good thing is the internet shares everything, so it doesn't matter whether I'm blocked behind his interview or not. We learned a lot. Multiple things. Let us start with the smallest one. Phil mentioned that Xbox is, of course, still open for new acquisitions. No, it's not. If they find any developer or technology that suits the Xbox roster, they are absolutely open for other acquisitions and more things. I mean, again, I don't think that's really new because they mentioned that before, but it's still interesting to come out after having like a controversial year, let's put it this way. But yeah, what were your thoughts about the acquisition thing?
Again, I understand it, trying to buy studios in areas of the world that they're not very prominent in to expand on that front. But as we've mentioned again, as we mentioned again, when they closed a specific studio down that was in an area of the country where they have no other developers, and yet closed them down anyway, which made little sense. Granted, they might not be performing to your liking, but on the flip side, that was your only studio in that area of the world, so it would have made more strategic sense to keep it open. So
yeah.
As much as they might make acquisitions in certain areas of the world in order to strengthen their geographical basis, I don't have much confidence in them supporting those studios as intended and keeping them running for very long if they're not profitable immediately. So it's kind of a cross thing. Yes, it would be great for this to happen in order to for Xbox's stand, in order to get studios in different areas of the world, in order to kind of widen their geographical tendencies and game development capabilities. But on the flip side, they've had that in the past and they no longer exist. Now we've got mainly European and American studios, if not all European and American studios, despite having studios from other territories before, and now they're no longer in existence.
That's true.
So it's kind of, should we say, hesitant to think that they'll be able to take care of them if they did.
See, of course, it's still super annoying that Tango, for instance, got shut down after releasing Hi-Fi Rush, which was actually pretty well received. And I think what still sticks with me though more is the fact that the last acquisition, obviously ABK, by far the biggest acquisition in the gaming landscape ever, really hasn't properly benefited me personally. And it's what I've said throughout this entire 1.5 years of acquisition period. What are we really getting out of ABK as gamers? Especially when you are on console. We haven't you get Call of Duty. Yes, that was the one thing. I'm not the biggest Call of Duty player. I played the campaign of Black Ops, great 6 hours, and that's it. I own all the legacy ABK titles that I
Same.
want to own and play.
Yep.
So I'm not getting any benefit out of them adding Spyro or Tony Hawk
Or Crash.
or something like that to Game Pass, because I already own those games.
Yep.
Then there's Blizzard, and
Unless you're
as
on
much
PC,
as I
you're not-
love Diablo, as much as I love Diablo, and everyone knows that, I already owned Diablo 4, and Diablo 5 is 10 years out.
Yep.
Yeah. WoW on consoles is still not a thing, and even if you're on PC, it's still not in Game Pass. You still have to pay the monthly fee. Nothing has changed for you, right?
Yep.
So there might be people out there that do not have the legacy titles and that are super fan of Call of Duty and love to play the multiplayer. And for them, it's great to get the cheap option now through Game Pass. Absolutely. But overall, there's not that much added. They literally said like 2 weeks ago, we're not changing the development cycle of Call of Duty. We're sticking with that yearly cadence, and every studio at Activision is going to work on that. Nothing is changing in that regard. And why would they? I mean, it's a money printing machine, obviously.
Yep.
So sitting here, I gotta admit, for me, ABK didn't do much. Bethesda was a different thing, entirely different thing. I love the Bethesda games. Basically everything that they release, I play and buy usually. They offer plenty of advantages for me. And so when I think about new acquisitions, what did ABK do? ABK put the gaming division on the big Microsoft corporation radar.
Yeah.
And throughout this entire year, we've been discussing their strategy on going multiplat and putting games on PlayStation and left and right. And all these moves, those are the results from the ABK acquisition.
Yep.
And the only thing I personally gained out of it is the quote-unquote free 6 hours of a Call of Duty campaign, and that's it. All right. So when looking at acquisitions, I'm absolutely open for them to do new acquisitions, but they kind of have to benefit me more than ABK did. And again, it's not hurting me right now that games like Indiana Jones are coming now to PlayStation as well. I could, in theory, don't care, because I still get to play it through Game Pass on Xbox, and so be it. But then it comes up, it's always the same discussion about having competition in the console space, and I want that.
Yep.
The new advertisement doesn't help that as well, by the way, And so, yeah, we could have that discussion again, whether it's good or bad to go multiplat. And we will have that discussion or kind of need to have this discussion again, because that's the second thing.
I want to add a little bit more onto that.
No red lines, but
Yeah.
let me finish really quick my train of thought on the acquisitions.
Yeah.
So when it comes to acquisitions, I'm not as enthusiastic anymore as I was a couple of years ago. And just because there's on the one side the risk that they shut down studios that really don't perform by any of their metrics, like Tango, and that's why I don't get a Hi-Fi Rush 2, right? Or it could be Xbox doing more corporate stuff, like going multiplat. which also is not what I really want, because again, I'm a big console fan. I'm not just an Xbox fan, I'm a console fan. I have a Switch, I have a PlayStation, but I love my console gaming, and I want the console space to be as competitive as possible. And the strategy they're choosing, not that direction. So when I think about a new acquisition, I really want to see a benefit for myself. Otherwise, I'm not that excited. And if they invest in, I don't know, a Crytek, been saying that for years. I want them to get a Crytek. They get a great engine, a great technology. The studio is struggling anyway with. They sit on great IP, from Crisis to Hunt to Rise. Yeah, I want a sequel to Rise. So I'd love to get something like that. But if I think about them getting into another publisher acquisition, not sure.
Yeah.
If I'm
one
all
thing I
up
wanted
for
to
it.
add.
It depends on the publisher, though.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add as well before we talk about the next section of the red line. The advertisement, whilst good just before Christmas, is also bad because, again, it doesn't advertise anything. Like, just before Christmas, when you're trying to sell something, specifically a thing, just before Christmas, i.e. whether that be a subscription service, as in Game Pass, or a console, as in Xbox, to tell everybody that everything is an Xbox before Christmas without specifically detailing what it is that you're trying to sell them, I think is not a good selling tool on the build-up to Christmas. What does that tell a parent that's watching that advert?
Yeah.
Like, what parent, a normal parent, when the kid says, I want to get an Xbox for Christmas, and then this Xbox advert comes on the telly and says, everything's an Xbox. What does the parent think? Like, what does an actual normal parent think of that advert? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
What do you mean everything's an Xbox? Like, what is an Xbox then? What am I buying?
Yeah. Agree. So, yeah, Dutch, let's talk about the no red lines.
Yes.
For those who might have missed it, another thing that Phil Spencer mentioned is that the multi-platform strategy, so bringing games to Switch and particularly PlayStation, has been a success. And for them, there are no red lines in which games might come to PlayStation or not. And I mean, that's been controversial, and it's also something that really doesn't come too surprising.
Yeah.
If you've been following what Xbox has been saying for this entire calendar year, right? Of course, they are thinking about this. And that means, of course, with no red, and a lot of people have always been like defending that. Okay, it's the new acquisitions. Back to acquisitions. Those kind of games, they stay multiplat, but there will always be like the Xbox core franchises, like your Halos and Gears and Forzas. There will remain exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. But Phil, again, becoming a little bit more clear in really how they are thinking. There are no red lines. There is no such thing where they say, okay, so we gotta keep Gears E-Day in our ecosystem. Yeah. So yeah. What are your thoughts before I give my spiel on this?
Yeah, there should be. Personally, I think there should be red lines. You still need something to sell a unit with. If they're saying there is no red lines, then there is no point in having an actual hardware. There's 0 point. Because if you're selling every game on every platform always, what is the USP behind an actual Xbox console? What is the selling point behind the console if your games are everywhere on day one? Ignore Game Pass, because that's an everything thing. You can play Game Pass everywhere. So the USP should still be software. It's not to say they can't put some games or most games on every console, but things like your Halos and your Gears and your Forzas, personally, should be Xbox hardware and Xbox ecosystem exclusive. So whether that be Xbox PC mobile via their app, then so be it. That's something that defined Xbox. It created what Xbox is and always was those specific titles. However, then you've got play devil's advocate from a corporate standpoint. They don't give a shit. They want money. So they want the game everywhere. And ultimately, Satya and the rest of the board don't care about exclusivity. They want everybody to play every game and it be available to everyone if possible.
And it makes sense, like you say, from a corporate standpoint. The reason why software has become the most profitable business on this planet is that it is super easy scalable. You have the development cost once, basically. I know there's server maintenance and stuff, but overall you develop it once. You don't have manufacturing costs or anything. And it is super scalable. And the bigger your potential install base, the better it scales. A lot, and with that, the business case. That's the reason why software is so insanely profitable. So, of course, from a corporate standpoint, it makes sense. And
I want to kind of pick on something Dustin in the chat. He's completely right. Selling a console is an old, antiquated way of thinking. It is. But if you are selling hardware, no matter what industry that is in, that hardware needs a unique selling point to sell it. Why would you buy this phone over an iPhone? It has a unique selling point. You would buy this phone over an iPhone because it's not a phone, it's a tablet. There you go. That's a unique selling point. Why would you buy this laptop over a desktop PC? Why would you buy this screen over another screen? It has to have a unique selling point. Consoles' unique selling points aren't specifically hardware related anymore. They're really not.
They haven't been for a long time.
They haven't been for a long time. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are pretty identical. It's like very finite.
As were the PS4 and Xbox One.
Exactly. Exactly. So there isn't really a unique selling point to actual hardware when it comes to consoles these days. Yes, you've got the PS5 Pro with PSSR. Great, but that's also shown recently to not really be it's not all that grand yet, but that's because it is the first version of it. The next version, however, of the PS6 will have PSSR launch, but you'll also have Xbox's version on whatever platform they have, and they'll have their own upscaling technologies as well, as they already do, because they've done that for their previous titles where all of things have been upscaled to 4K and 60 frames at no cost on backwards compatible titles.
Although not to the same degree.
Not to the same degree, but it's the same kind of thing. It's still AI, machine learning, upscaling in a method. However, of course, this is a different version of that. As we know, super sampling is an entirely different thing, but you can guarantee Xbox will have their own version of super sampling in the next version of its Xbox, as well as PlayStation with its next PSSR version that they've learnt with over this cycle. So the hardware has no USP. There is no specific USP to the hardware. Yes, the controllers, you have them because, of course, you've got a speaker on the DualSense and you've got all these features on it. And the Xbox doesn't currently, but it has its own benefits, whether it be the way it feels or the layout. So each of the controllers might have a USP, but the hardware doesn't. And so what do you need to sell the hardware? You need software to sell the hardware. So, of course, if PlayStation continue to have reasons to sell the hardware because it has software to back it up, granted, it hasn't for the PlayStation 5 Pro had software to back it up, and it's been quite light recently. The overall image of PlayStation, however, is you want to get a PlayStation for PlayStation titles. And these are the reasons you need to buy a PlayStation, for these PlayStation titles. Xbox going forward don't have that vision of needing to sell a console. And that's both a good and a bad thing, because again, yes, it's an old way of thinking. Why would you want to sell a console these days? Yeah, but if you're going to insist on still selling one, which Microsoft are insisting, we will always still sell consoles and play it on PC and play it on thing. Okay, if you're insisting on continuing to make hardware, then you have to give a reason for people to buy it. Yeah, and that's where software comes in.
It's a very good point you bring up, because you kind of have to look at this with a little bigger picture than just Xbox consoles, but talk more consoles in general. There is a unique selling point in buying a console. Doesn't matter the brand, yeah? Because it provides you something different. It's a different experience than you have on PC. And there are good reasons for both sides. Yeah. Some people like to build PCs to get the best performance out there and spend thousands of dollars or euros on them, and therefore have the best experience, and people can use a PC for other things as well. Usually you don't use your PC just for gaming. There are other things, whether it's work, whether it's content creation or whatever. Yeah, there are different things, reasons to get a PC as well as a console. Yeah, it's more convenient. It's easier to play in the living room. You know, it's just a little box that just plays games, but it does that really well. Easy to get into, turn it on, play a game, bam, be done with it.
Yeah.
No setting up a PC, dealing with updates and drivers and whatnot. And so there is a unique selling point for a console. And since Nintendo has been living and is going to continue to live with the Switch 2 in their own bubble, there are, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because they also have with that their unique selling point. Yeah. But if you want to play the latest third-party games at Dragon Age, which I'm playing right now and loving, I can't do that on the Switch. So the Switch is really a unique option for the Nintendo bubble.
Yeah.
But if you want to play the latest AAA blockbusters on a console, there are two options out there.
Yeah.
It's a PlayStation and it's an Xbox. And of course, we could all argue about if Xbox is going multiplat. It's an old way to think about console sales. I do agree it's an old way, but it jeopardizes the entire existence of consoles, because at the end of the day, if Xbox doesn't sell consoles anymore, and I don't mean like they are not manufacturing, they are going to release the next Xbox console.
Yeah.
But if they are not selling enough units, there's really no competition in the market, because that leaves you with a PlayStation. You get a PlayStation, you can play the Xbox games, you can play Indiana Jones and Doom and everything, and maybe the next Gears.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll touch on that, by the way, in a second. But that leaves you with a quasi monopoly, And you see that with the PS5 Pro and its ridiculous price point, where we are now at the point of them selling the console for 800 euros without a stand.
Or a disc
drive. I have to buy or the disc drive. Well, I don't care for the disc drive anyway, but if you want to at least put your console in a proper position in your entertainment center, I have to spend another $50 there. And then, like, and for those who do have do like disk drives, yeah, I'm looking at a console price of past 900 euros.
Yeah.
That's just a harsh reality. If there were proper competition in the console space, and Xbox would be on par with the lifetime sales of a PS5, we wouldn't see a behavior like that from Sony. You just wouldn't. And so, to me, selling consoles not just behooves Xbox, but it behooves us console gamers in general. That's why I always say it's so ridiculous for PlayStation fans to root for Xbox to fail. You know, you're hurting ultimately yourself. And yes, I do care about consoles. I love console gaming. I do have a very good gaming PC, but I prefer to play my games on consoles. It's more convenient for me. There's just it's just a different feeling to just sit down on the couch, turn on the TV and play a game on a console than sitting in front of a desk, which I do all day at work, you know, and play a video game there. It's just a different feeling for me. And I love consoles and I want the console business to be strong.
Yep.
And for Xbox to move away from that is not good. And I know there will be a next Xbox, a next gen Xbox consoles. The console are not going away. But I still, like you said, I want that console to have a unique selling point.
Yeah.
And with not having software that is exclusive, what is the unique selling point? And there's just, for me, I can't see a reason why the next Xbox console should be successful then, unless they have something like a unique selling point. If the console provides the Steam store, which some of the rumors suggest, you know, like some of the PC launchers natively or something like that, it would be kind of that unique selling point, even if hardware then is on par with PlayStation 6 or whatever. Yeah. So there are multiple ways that this could turn out. But as of right now, I don't see how this no red line thing is going to help to put up a proper competition towards Sony.
Yeah. But not only that, but we all know what is the origin of the name Xbox? Why is it called Xbox?
Because of the DirectX support.
Yes. So is then theoretically Xbox as a name and as a brand still there if there isn't a physical console that is by or supported via DirectX? It's no longer an Xbox. This isn't an Xbox. It has an Xbox app, but it's not Direct Xbox because this does not have that DirectX on it.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. Although,
I mean, brand name wise, you've got to again respect the origin. It's Direct Xbox because it was again built on DirectX. That's why it's called the Xbox.
So it's a thin line, and of course with corporate Microsoft looking at this,
they don't care.
Phil isn't going to be there forever. Right? We all know that, and they will release the next Xbox console.
They will
release that. But at some point, corporate Microsoft is going to look at this. Why are we even doing this?
Why are we spending money creating a console that isn't selling well?
Exactly. Yeah, it costs billions of to develop such a console.
Yeah.
Then you don't see a return in profit on console sales per se. They never have. Yeah. It's like
before 360 anyway. 360 was the last time they saw any kind of marginal gain. Yeah,
but even the 360 at launch didn't sell at a proper margin. Yeah, so Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, that has always been the console business, right? Sell the hardware even at a loss and make the return of profit on software sales. And this is ultimately going to be a tough question that corporate Microsoft is going to ask, right? If the next Xbox isn't going to be like a super seller, and with that multi-platform strategy, I mean, they now have the games to actually have a real reason. If you think about this, the lineup of next year, right, exclusively on Xbox: Doom, Fable, Avowed, Indiana Jones, which is technically still a this year game, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There would be, it would, and if they can continue that throughout 26 with Perfect Dark and Gears and all the good stuff, it would be an absolute reason to get the console sales out there. And I know it's an outdated way of thinking, but it's a thinking of, hey, can they keep the console business alive?
Yeah.
And with that, I not just mean the Xbox console business, but the PlayStation business as well. Because having a monopoly, quasi-monopoly there in terms of consoles, is not gonna help us customers.
Yep.
Not at all. And that's my angle where I come from in this whole no red line discussion. And seeing that as well, you know, it kind of makes sense that the next Gears is a prequel now.
Yep.
Right?
It's going to go everywhere.
If they would have made Gears 6 and want to bring that to PlayStation, it's kind of hard to sell because I haven't played the first 5 Gears. Why would I start with Gears 6? I don't know the previous story. I don't know the characters. I don't know where. You know.
But
But
now,
having a prequel,
yep. Now that you get
exactly.
people on the
Now you
prequels,
introduce them.
Yeah.
It's super easy, and that's why I also believe that the next Halo is not gonna be a Halo. What would it be then? 7,
Yeah.
right? It's gonna be like a soft reboot.
Yeah, and then they'll
Makes it easier.
Then they'll bring the Master Chief Collection over to PlayStation, and they'll
Exactly.
bring over the
And
Marcus
Forza
Phoenix Collection over to
and
PlayStation.
Forza Horizon 5. Pardon me, Forza Horizon 6 is not gonna be called 6. It's gonna be called, I don't know, Forza Horizon A New Dawn or something like that. You know, if you go multiplat and you want to introduce that huge player base over there on PlayStation, the 65 millions or what they have sold now, plus minus, into Gears, you do a prequel. You don't do Gears 6. You don't do Halo 7. You do Halo A New Dawn. Everything's now gonna go called A New Dawn. You know, and it just makes sense to introduce people into those. For Fable, they do a reboot, right? Why not bring it over to PlayStation? You don't have to be familiar with Fable 1, 2, and 3. Makes sense, yeah. And I think maybe I'm reading too much into all of this, but probably, but. From their point of view, if you don't have any red lines and you want to bring Gears to PlayStation, this is the way to do it, right? So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There's nothing we can really do and change about this because everyone still gonna play the next Gears, no matter where, which is great. We're still getting those games, yeah. But I'm just scared that my beloved consoles, plural, all of them, might be in trouble in the future. On the one side, you have a monopoly. The other one doesn't care anymore, and the Switch is gonna do their own thing as always because there's no way we are going to play the next Gears on the Switch too.
Yeah, and it's also false to say that the other platforms are struggling to sell consoles because they're not. Console market isn't dying. only Xbox's console is dying.
Yeah. I mean, it's not
Switch is
particularly growing either.
Yeah, but it's
I
not
get
dying.
that.
But it's not.
It's not dying.
PlayStation's still on track to sell more than the PlayStation 4. Switch is still the most successful Nintendo they've had. So it's
well, the Wii, but yeah, it's close to it.
Yeah, I think it'll still probably supersede it in the end.
Could be.
And then the Switch 2 comes out, and that'll be unbelievably successful. We know it will be, because it's just going to be a very enhanced version of the previous Switch. They're not changing the form factor. They're not changing the USPs. They're just improving on what worked. And which is the one thing people really wanted was, okay, we really like the Switch. We like what it did. It needs improvements. So that's what they're doing, essentially. They're just creating the next iteration of the Switch, which is good. So that's going to be unbelievably successful. That'll sell like hotcakes. PlayStations sell regardless, because people just buy PlayStations. So their markets aren't going anywhere. They're still retaining, if not selling more than they ever have. Xbox is the only one for the last couple of generations that's continued to decline, because they've gave up more and more market share. After the 360 generation, they gave up market share to PlayStation because PlayStation 4 was a better console at the start of the Xbox One gen, and it had more to it. And then as the Series console and the PlayStation 5 console came in, they both had equally impressive hardware, but the software wasn't there to back it up. And the marketing from PlayStation, though misleading, gave people games even though they were cross-gen games.
Yeah.
And they had a reason to buy it. And so more people moved over to PlayStation again from Xbox, because there wasn't a reason to buy an Xbox at launch. So then market sales have declined further. And as the generations have went on, there's been less reason to buy an Xbox and more reason to buy any of the competitor consoles or handhelds or dive into PC. So that it's declined again. So since the 360 generation, it has continued to nosedive.
Yeah.
And that's the only console that's done that. Nintendo recovered from the Wii U to go on to sell one of their most successful consoles ever.
Absolutely.
PlayStation recovered from the PS3, which was horrific at the start, to go on to sell their their biggest console ever in the PS4, or at least on par with the PS2. On par with the PS2.
The PS2 is still a little higher. PS2 was 140 something million.
I think PS4 is 130 or something in the end. Maybe
no. I think it was just a little above 100.
Yeah. No, it was more than that.
But still,
it was more than that. It was more than 120 when they finished the PS4 cycle.
Hang on. Let me fact check that.
Yeah.
PS4 117.
There we go. So closer to 117 more. Yeah.
As of August 2024.
Yeah.
PS2 was still 158 million.
Yeah.
So there was still a gap. But let's see it this way. If a console, if you are able to sell 100 million plus, you can consider your console generation a very successful generation, right? And there's no reason Xbox shouldn't be able to achieve 100 million lifetime sales.
Yep.
There's plenty of reason. Beside Game Pass, of course, there's great games. It's a great ecosystem. There's, little features that really do enhance your gaming everyday life, like quick resume and stuff like that, free cloud saves. And there's no reason to not do that.
Yeah.
If you would have the lineup to back it. And now, for the first time since the 360 days, for the first time in almost 15 years now, I want to say, yeah, at least 10 plus years, they are at this point where they do have the lineup again to back console sales up, and now they're giving that up.
Yeah.
And so it's gonna be really tough for them to make the next Xbox console a proper success. And yes, you can tell me all day long that this is an outdated way of thinking because it's not about selling consoles. No, it's not. It's about selling software, making money on software sales, and you do that on every platform. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the end, I want a healthy console.
But yeah, and like
Console
I said before,
business,
outside
you know?
of just wanting a healthy console, if Xbox and Microsoft are insisting on selling hardware, as a business, if you're insisting on continuing to sell hardware to play that software on, then you still need a USP for that hardware.
Yeah.
That's just basics, the bare basics. If you are
and if it's not the software anymore,
yeah,
you kind of have to provide something that the other guy isn't.
Yeah.
And there are multiple rumors out there that do support that. If they, and I mentioned that earlier in the show, I do believe that the next console is gonna run some sort of Windows, not the usual desktop. You will not be able to boot into PowerPoint from your console. There will be like an overlay or launcher or something, but it's going to be Windows. And if it's true what the rumors say, that they will have PC stores available on the consoles, rumors are out there about Steam and Epic and stuff like that, you know, that would be a unique selling point. And the other rumor that isn't really a rumor anymore, because let's use it as a segue into another thing that Phil mentioned this week in an interview, is the handheld.
Yeah.
Right? Phil basically confirmed that they are working on one. He said, longer term, I love us building devices, and I think our team could do some real innovative work there, but we want to be informed by learning and what's happening right now. And he mentioned that the handheld is likely years away. So basically confirming a handheld is in the works, but it's unlike some people suggested. 25, we're gonna get an Xbox handheld. Yeah, no, it's years away.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of
you
said
and I
probably
both
launch with the next.
Yeah, you and I both said it wouldn't make sense to launch an Xbox handheld next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because then you would launch the Xbox handheld in this generation.
Yeah.
Which is not really making that much sense.
And then you'd have you'd have the power issue thing again as well.
Yeah, it would make sense if you think about the Xbox handheld as the mid-gen upgrade. If the next gen will launch in, let's say, 28, 29, you would still have like 3-4 years left in this gen, then it kind of would make sense. But since that's the other thing that is heavily rumored, that Xbox is going to launch it early next gen, 26, maybe 27, depending on how things go. If you do that, you're not going to launch a handheld for another year, which you have left in this gen. So it makes sense to launch the handheld along with the next gen console.
Yep.
So years out doesn't sound like 26 though.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean 24 is basically over.
Yeah.
1.5 months. We are in 25. So years out is not sounding like 26. So do you think 26 is going to be a next gen year for Xbox, or is it later?
27.
Now we're moving to 27, right?
27. But saying that, PlayStation have already confirmed now with the release of PlayStation 5 Pro that extends their life cycle by 5 years. So that would take them to 29 anyway, at least 29. So even if Xbox do go 27, that's still 2 years prior.
Yeah, it would absolutely, yeah.
And again, Xbox have zero plans to bring in a mid-gen refresh Pro version of their console. Zero plans to do that. They've already mentioned this countless times. They are not going to do a mid-gen refresh. Their mid-gen refreshes are just different versions of the same consoles, like a 2 terabit Series S and a 2 terabit Series X and an all digital Series X. That's their mid-gen refreshes. That's it, done. So it makes, if that's the case, let's face it, these consoles are going to be severely underpowered within the next 3 years anyway. So it makes absolute sense to have something ready to go then. In which case, 27 also makes sense. That's 3 years, 2.5 years from now, if not later, for a handheld. And bear in mind, me and you have been speaking about them doing a handheld since last year when we spoke to them about the handheld and what features we'd like to include in it, and the engineering team about handhelds in general. So we've always been firm on the idea that they are absolutely making one. And then everybody else is like, oh, it's only a rumor. We've always been steadfast in saying, no, there's no reason for them to ask this many questions about a handheld to us.
And not working on
one. If they're not working
absolutely.
on one.
So, I'm still sticking with 26 because you always have to be a little careful with the phrasing of things that Phil says, because on the one hand, he kind of tries to provide transparency, but on the other hand, he also knows that every word he speaks is going to be twisted and turned into something. And at the end of the day, even if they launch 26, they launch in November 26, like every console always does. And that's still 2 years out. So you kind of wanna still give people the feeling it's still worth investing into an Xbox.
Yeah.
In 24, right before the Christmas sales, right? Mm-hmm. There's no reason for anyone to believe, or there's no reason for them to make people believe that next gen hardware is close, even though it might be, right?
Yeah.
And so years out is still, years 26. Is plural, 2 years is plural. I'm sticking with 26 because it kind of makes sense for them.
Yep. Especially if you think of the time frame. He's talking in holiday 24. Technically, holiday 26 is still 2 years away.
Exactly. It's 2 years away from now.
Yep.
And that's plenty of time. You still can sell a lot of Xbox Series consoles in that period. And on the other hand, handhelds are super popular right now.
Yeah.
But as always, there is only a certain window of hype for that.
I think the benefit they've got here, I think if Nintendo had chosen to not go handheld for their next console, which they have, of course, we know it's just an improved version of the Switch.
Yeah, Switch.
Which would then keep handhelds popular again on that front. We've also seen, and we know the next iterations of the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally are also in the works. And they will continue to improve. I think handhelds will remain popular for a very good reason. I think the initial iterations that we saw of handhelds previously weren't that great. But I firmly believe with the way that the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally have specifically hit the market and how popular they've been and how well liked they've been, I think there is a bit of a change on that stance from the general market. I think in terms of handhelds and what they can do now compared to what they used to be able to do is probably why handhelds are becoming more popular now, because it's not just a case of, okay, you can play certain games and they're not as good as the certain games on this platform. With the likes of a ROG Ally and with the likes of the Steam Deck, where you can get literal PC games on the move, and if you want to dock it, you can play it as a PC in your house with a monitor.
Yeah.
It's this Switch mentality, and I think that's what the Xbox handheld will also be. I think it'll have an ability to dock and use as a console when in the house. I think that's the only way really to sell these kinds of devices, whether it be the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, or the Switch, or the Xbox handheld. Having hybrid functionality and saying, okay, yes, this is a handheld you can take anywhere, but when you go home, you can just plug the HDMI into it and it's a console.
It's a console.
Bam.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, you don't have to sell me on why handhelds are great.
Yeah. I know you've got ROG Ally, you love it. But again,
I love
going
it.
back to that, it's USPs as well.
My point is, you know, when you look at the overall market, there's the Steam Deck, there's the ROG Ally, the Lenovo, and all these really good PC-like handhelds that have surfaced. And yes, there will be a new version of the ROG Ally. I mean, there already is, right? It's not significantly improved. It still runs the same chip, but it has a little bit more RAM. It has a little bit bigger hard drive, there comes a point where this kind of market goes into a certain saturation. It's just the normal thing that happens. Yeah, people that are interested in handheld gaming will have one, and I don't think that. And the question is how fast that will happen.
Yeah.
So when you think about a year, let's say 2029, it'll be harder to sell that. Because then the market is already saturated. Play Anywhere has developed by then, right? Yeah. And you know, it's like just it's these things that lead into it makes it, and so I'm still believing firmly that they will do a 26 launch for the handheld along with a new regular console. That's 2 years out. It totally makes sense for them. By then, they have shown that they have a continued regular cadence of quality games coming, and then it kind of makes sense, and just don't care anymore what Sony is doing, whether they, like we all thought originally 28 is the year for Sony, but now we know it's probably even going to be a little later, 29, maybe even 2030, because they talked about their 10-year console plan for the PS5, and they really, I don't think that they are going to look at this from a Sony perspective, but more from what, okay, how is the market developing, and when does it make sense to bring an Xbox handheld, which is then natively a portable console, which outside of the Switch, yes, we do not have on the market. That's a unique selling point again. No,
that's the thing that I think will differentiate Xbox's handheld over that. I think is, and we stipulated that as well. We wanted a kind of more, well, I wanted a kind of more native solution. I don't want the Xbox, because I think there's another selling point as well for Xbox. When you're coming at it from a Steam Deck perspective, as someone who plays on Steam or plays on PC, you fully expect Steam Deck to be Steam. You kind of expect it to be more of a PC feel. Same with the ROG Ally. Yeah. It's Windows based. You kind of know what you're getting with that. However, if you're getting an Xbox, like a native Xbox handheld, or a native Nintendo handheld, or a native PlayStation handheld, whatever it may be, you kind of wanted to feel more of a console than you do a PC. And I think the casual market would kind of want that as well. And especially if that's the ballpark you're going in. However, on the flip side, part of the conversation we had with the engineering team with regards to the handheld was price point. And when we were mentioning, okay, well, maybe the price point is this kind of ballpark figure, they were saying, well, we've kind of got the understanding that people are willing to pay a bit more for a better handheld. And probably looking towards maybe the highest end ROG Ally price point or the highest end Steam Deck price point. As to kind of the ballpark figures they're thinking of, as opposed to maybe the Switch price point. So I think they're thinking a little bit beefier, which would then be a little bit of a thing for more casual consumers. But I think OS or operating system wise, yes, ultimately it's going to be a Windows based, but I think having an Xbox UI there as opposed to a Windows UI or a Steam UI.
And play your console library.
Exactly. Console natively.
Natively. That's the key selling
the feeling of literally
point,
just being able to go, okay, my console's there, pick up, and there's the console, and it's still exactly the same UI, and it doesn't feel any different, and you can just play your games where you left off and continue to play them without much hassle. Nice, easy interface, as opposed to a Windows interface or anything like that. You've mentioned yourself as well when you haven't played your ROG Ally for a few days, and you're going, fucking drivers. We're going to update the drivers before I can play.
Yeah.
That's one thing Xbox do not need that on an Xbox handheld. You need to be able to have that handheld as painless as possible for the consumer, because you don't want people to get the console, especially casuals, and then go, why do I have to update things every 2 minutes? Why do I have to update things if I haven't played it for a couple of days? Like, why do I have to install these drivers all the time?
Yeah, exactly.
So it needs.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the conversations also in the chat. Mons the Quisitor says years means to me in the next 4 to 5 years. It would definitely not be coming in 2026. Yeah, I totally get that. It's what you
open to interpretation.
Automatically interpret years out like something like that, 4 years plus out. But then again, I wouldn't take it too literal, because it is also a big marketing issue. If he would have, we are working on that and stay tuned, everyone would be like, oh, we were getting that next year, and people would hold off on hardware sales and investments in the Xbox ecosystem and wait for it. And 26 still means 2 years, and that's a long time. So yeah, I'm sticking with 26 is gonna be the next hardware year for Xbox, with a new console and the handheld, honestly.
Yeah.
But we shall see. We shall see. Dutch. Let us move on. And since we are talking about years and whatnot, this week we had the 4-year anniversary of the Xbox Series consoles and the PlayStation 5 Pro on November 10th and November 12th, respectively, 4 years ago. The current gen launched, and I can't believe that it's been already 4 years. It's because people still talk about these consoles like, oh yeah, next gen console, the next gen consoles, and so I wanted to talk to you about this generation a little bit. I mean, 4 years is actually a pretty substantial time. Usually we would say half time, right?
Yeah.
The PS5 just got their mid-gen upgrade. Obviously, there's no Xbox mid-gen upgrade coming. And so in retrospective, how do you feel about these 4 years of Xbox and Series consoles and PlayStation 5?
How do
How
I
was the
feel about them?
generation so far for you? Has it been a good one?
Being brutally honest, from a first party standpoint, no, I think it's been lackluster. From a third party standpoint, this generation, we've been inundated with really great games.
Mm.
So it's been a hit and miss. Do I think the consoles have met expectations? No. Do I think first party games have really been a gigantic leap over what we had last gen? No.
Mm.
Um, Granted, thankfully, there's still time to go, but there's been such a long crossover between previous gen and current and next gen.
And honestly, that's the reason why people still talk about these consoles
Yeah.
4 years into the generation as the next gen consoles.
Yeah, because we haven't really seen that thing that we go, wow, this is what these can do, and this is
I do agree.
ultimately
Yeah.
to me. I've had more fun this gen on third party titles and indie titles than I have first party. There's been some cool first party things, but nothing that has been to me unbelievably memorable.
Mm.
There's been better memorable titles this gen from third party. Unfortunately, nothing stood out.
Yeah.
That hasn't been cross gen. Like, there's nothing specific to this generation that's made me go, wow.
2015, I had that "Ooh, this is next gen" moment when a game like The Witcher came out.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is a game, and I'm not just talking about visuals and graphics, but I thought, okay, this is a game in its scope that would have not been possible on the previous gen. And I didn't have that moment so far with this gen, where I get a game and I feel like, oh, this is doing something that just would not have been possible. Yes, I mean, I look at a game like Hellblade 2. From a visual standpoint, obviously, that would have not been possible on an Xbox One or
Yeah.
PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I agree there. But visuals and graphics isn't everything, right?
Yeah.
Just in terms of game design, on ambition, on what it does, maybe the massive simulation aspect, like The Witcher, that had just a living and breathing world where you felt, okay, this world is alive, and this would not have been possible on a 360. Yeah. Something like that is still missing. I do agree there.
Yeah. Like you say, I mean, yes, Hellblade absolutely, from a graphical standpoint, from a technical standpoint, was phenomenal. But as everybody knows, it really, from a gameplay perspective, from again the size of the game. Not every game needs to be massive, but the size of the title, what it did to really jump out from its previous or predecessor to make a mark on the market, it didn't do enough. Visually, it did. It showed us the power of what Unreal Engine can do when somebody that is attuned to Unreal Engine gets their hands on it. But we haven't seen anything on a bigger scale. We haven't seen anything a little bit longer. And again, story-wise, although I loved it, and I got the 1000G, and you enjoyed it,
Absolutely.
a lot of people didn't enjoy the story. A lot of people thought the story was a bit of a mixed bag. And again, it's one of them things where you've been waiting for something for so long, and I can say this as well. I've been waiting for Hellblade 2 for so long. Made a console for it and everything, as you know. I spent hundreds of hours. I spent more time making the console than I did playing the game. And that's the one thing that it was a slight thing for me, is that once, and it took 11 hours to get the 1000 on it. And there really isn't a reason for me to go back to that game ever. Again, as everybody knows, especially with these impactful games that have a a story that needs to be told. Once you've played that story and that story's stuck in with you, it doesn't have the same impact the next time you play it. It doesn't. So it hasn't got a replayability. And the one thing I look for in games now, much like you, your favorite game of all time, almost all time, is Witcher.
Yeah.
And the one thing Witcher has going for it over a lot of games that have released this gen is replayability. You can go to The Witcher and play it countless times and do things countless of different ways and do different things in different avenues, and there's so much to do in The Witcher. But there isn't many games. God of War Ragnarok as well is one of them. I finished that, platinumed it. Did I have a reason to go back to it afterwards? Do I have a reason to ever play that game again? No. Loved it. There's no replayability on it though.
Yeah. Especially if you're not into achievement hunting or trophy hunting. See, with Hellblade, I really loved it. I don't want people to take this the wrong way, what I'm about to say. I think the biggest problem was really its length. And I don't need every game to be 100-hour plus vast open world game. On the contrary. But ultimately, the problem with it is that if a game is super short, like it took me not even 6 hours to beat Hellblade 2. And yeah, I didn't get the 1000G, but I don't care about achievements. I just played the game, loved it, thought it was a technical marvel. I did enjoy the combat, honestly. I enjoyed the story. All cool. Great game. I think I gave it a 9.2 or so, and I stand by that. But the problem with the length of the problem is, the length of the game is, if you want to make an impact and be like a memorable game, what you kind of need to achieve is that people get attached to the characters.
Yeah.
Right? And after 5 hours, 5.5 hours, you barely got to know Senua as a character. Right? She kind of grew on you, but then the game was over. And if it would have been like a 12-hour game, 15-hour game, something in that ballpark, you know, it would have stuck with you longer because then you spent so much or enough time that you really attach towards the characters. And that is what makes memorable games, right? If I think about the best games I've played, they are not all 100-hour plus games. But they are at least long enough for me to actually care about the characters, to get some kind of connection with them. And 5-6 hours is just not long enough to achieve that. And so as good as it was, I don't think that that it is one of those games where people will remember much, and you know, because you never had the chance to really get attached towards it because of the length.
I think as well that's why people preferred the story on the first Hellblade, because it was more focused on Senua and her struggles and learning about her. Whereas the second one was more about learning about other people and their problems as opposed to Senua. And one of the other things as well, on a combat standpoint, even though it was fluid and meaty and it felt great, there was no variance in it. From my standpoint, especially if you're a Celtic or Norse warrior, you would be picking up an axe. Fully using an axe or switching to another and some other thing, or a mace or whatever it is you can pick up. The variance of weapons should have been there. It's just a little bit more variety. So
I'm not hating on Hellblade 2 at all. Loved it for what it was. Absolutely cool. And I was going in knowing it's going to be a shorter experience, all cool. But if it's just because of that, it doesn't make a lasting impression or impact.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this gen. We are digressing a little.
But no, I mean,
going off
the purpose really was, I think, on first party not having the impact this gen.
Yeah.
That was ultimately the purpose of that little rant, was because even though there are some fantastic games, you've mentioned it yourself.
Fantastic
You've had more fun, and I've had more fun on third party games than we have on first party games, despite the first party games maybe pushing the technical boundaries a bit more. The third party games, from a story perspective and from worlds that have been created, have been better games.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. I mean, when I look now back on the first 4